Hi, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. Drinking water in the US city of Flint, Michigan has been contaminated with toxic lead. Government officials' attempt to save money has had a big impact on the health of local residents. So our online community today is in Flint, Michigan, some of them, and we're really getting amazing insight from what's been happening down on the ground.
Exactly, and so some of them are telling us why is it, or they're explaining why it is, that the rest of the world is hearing about this now. So in particular, there's this tweet sent to the stream from Ann Arbor, that is a city about an hour south of Flint, and Hector says, shouts, whistleblowing, a reporter, 2 doctors, and the media brought attention to the Flint water crisis. Most state politicians ignored it. We want to hear from you on this topic as well, wherever you are in the world. You can tweet us with hashtag AJStream.
Hey, I'm Noah Stevens. I'm the founder of thepeopleofdetroit.com and the Detroit Food Desert Project. I'm in the stream.
A state of emergency was recently declared in the city of Flint, Michigan by President Barack Obama after dangerously high lead levels were discovered in the blood of the city's children. The water problems in Flint date back to April 2014, when the state of Michigan tried to save money for this financially troubled city by switching water sources from Lake Huron to the Flint River. But the new source turned out to be extremely corrosive and damaged the city's lead water pipes. For months, the nearly 100,000 residents in the city had no idea that they were drinking and showering with toxic water. Many complained that their water smelled, looked and tasted abnormal, and some even experienced hair loss, rashes and other health problems. And despite this, city officials insisted that the water was safe. So why did it take so long for authorities to look into this serious problem? Joining us to talk about this, Curt Guyette is an investigative reporter with the American Civil Liberties Union of the state of Michigan. Groeneveld is a student and resident of Flint. Rochelle Riley, a columnist who writes for a number of publications, including the Detroit Free Press. And Nayyirah Shariff is a community and political organizer in Flint and a coordinator with the Democracy Defense League. And we also were expecting to have the former mayor of Flint in this lineup. He was in office during much of this crisis, but he cancelled just a few hours before the show. I suspect, Megan, that you had some questions for that former mayor. But let me start with one for you. You've got 2 youngsters. When did you know that there was something wrong with your water supply?
Well, at first, after they switched, I mean, there was a lot of skepticism when they told us that they were going to switch our water in the first place. We started turning on the tap water shortly after the switch, and it was coming out brown and it was coming out smelly. My sons didn't even want to touch it. They didn't want anything to do with it in the first place.
What did it smell like, Megan?
It smelled awful. It smelled kind of like if you tried to cover up the layer of feces with bleach.
Oh, that's a fantastic description. Wow.
It came out, it permanently stained our bathtub at our old house. It was, if you took a shower and you came out, you were itching, your skin burned. It was imagine how dry skin feels, but multiply that by like 1,000.
Wow. At what point did you go, this isn't right, I need to tell somebody? How long did you put up with that?
Me personally, I'd been a little bit distrustful of the Flint water just because I know what the contamination levels are like from the fact that this was an industrial town. So I was always a little bit skeptical about it. But to me, I don't think I started realizing that maybe there was something in the water until I'd been drinking it for 2 or 3 months.
Ooh.
I think I started having stomach problems.
Right.
I lost a lot of weight. I'm 5 feet tall on the dot, and I lost almost 60 pounds. My hair started falling out. The skin on the bottoms of my feet started coming off. I had little prickly red bumps all over the place. My fiance's back looked like it was just coated in blood blisters. And this was just drinking and taking showers in the water that, the city of Flint saw fit to give us.
Megan, thank you for sharing your story. I want to illustrate for our community what this looks like. You described it as bleach covering up the smell of feces. So this is a tweet Lakia Nolan shared online not too long ago, and she's from Flint. This is brown lead-filled water. She writes, across the street from my house, you can see a fire hydrant that's been opened there, gushing with this brown water. She goes on to say, it's really bad. You would actually have to be here to really feel the impact. And this is one of those tweets that really circulated wildly around the world because it showed exactly how bad it was. Nayyirah, you are there. How bad has it been for you and people you know?
Well, a couple of months after the switch, I noticed I work from home, so the water would, depending on the time of day, it would either come out brown, like the color of chicken broth, or it will smell very chlorine-y, or smell like an open sewer. And I noticed one day when I was washing the dishes, and it was probably about June, a couple of months after the switch, I washed dishes. And right after I washed the dishes, my hands started to swell, and I had like all of these bumps, and it was burning. And so after that, I started washing dishes with latex gloves. And I bought a filter, and I was no longer really using the unfiltered water. And so I'm with the Democracy Defense League. And so we were out hearing stories of people whose hair was falling out and whose was getting burns. And so we knew that there was something wrong with the water.
Sure. I mean, talking about hair falling out, not just people's hair falling out, because everybody's using this water source. Megan showed us a picture and shared a picture of her cat, and you can actually see these bald patches on her cat. So everybody who drank the water and everything that drank the water was affected. Curt, at what point did you come in on this investigation?
I started to focus on what was going on in January of 15 after it was announced that there had been a carcinogenic byproduct of chlorine, dangerously high levels of that in the water for about 9 months before the citizens were informed about that. And the reason my beat is I cover issues involving the state's emergency manager law. And so when that announcement was made and the fact that information was hidden from citizens, I went up there and started zeroing in on this issue.
So what the concern was from the residents was what, Megan? What did you start telling people?
I started asking people if their water was coming out smelling weird or looking really discolored too. I was asking other people that I knew that had kids if their kids were having any kind of issues. And then you started hearing things. You'd be in line at the grocery store and you'd hear somebody else talking about their kid had to go to the doctor because they had these skin rashes or they had cracks in their skin that was bleeding. Or you'd hear somebody else talking about how they'd had a big wad of hair in the bottom of their shower drain that morning. And it's for me, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when I started hearing more about it and stop thinking maybe I was just imagining it or that my skin had just gone sensitive.
Rochelle?
And as I listen to these stories and Megan talking about this and these types of complaints going on from February of 2014, which almost 2 years coming next month, and people hearing that anywhere, in any city, in any place, and not immediately thinking there's some serious emergency going on, is heartbreaking, and that's been at the bottom of this story.
Yeah.
The story has 3 layers: politics, catastrophe, and politics, where the politics of the emergency
I think there's another area here too, which is the media, and myself is included. I didn't get up there until January, and it had been going on for 10 months at that point, so I was late to the game. But the media really has done a shameful job in paying attention to what was going on there from the very beginning and not taking seriously the complaints that residents were raising.
And I think if Flint didn't have such a reputation in the national media for being a troubled city, that maybe they would have paid attention to us a little bit sooner. And I think that just goes to show that, unless you actually live in a city, you can't just believe everything you see on the TV, because then you miss crises like this when it's actually something real and something's happening, something's going on. And all these people just figured it was, oh, it's Flint, what's going on now?
That is something that a few people online mentioned. This is Nate, who says, inadequate info provided to the public after the realization because of, in my opinion, this person says, unfit state government lacking basic human compassion. He goes on to say, the short answer is that the local population semi-purposely were denied education and warning of the dangers of the water supply. Megan, when you read that from someone who is there saying that we were purposely misdirected from the truth, what do you say?
I think I don't think, I know, I agree with him. I thought it was hilarious that last summer in 2015, I go to check the mail and the water quality report's sitting in there, but for some reason it says it's the 2014 water quality report instead of the 2015 water quality report. And I wasn't the only person that was on my street that got one of the ones from 2014. There were other people on my block that received one from 2014 as well. And we're all sitting around like, well, where's the one from this year? We want to know how safe this water is. I think they lied to us on purpose because the immediate response from at least everybody local that I know when they told us they were switching us to the Flint River was, are you nuts? Are you serious? Are you really going to?
Megan, let me just show you why you would say that. So to illustrate for our audience, this is from the report that was done into the quality of the water. So this is the Flint water, and this is the Detroit water, which used to be your water supply before it was switched. It's now been switched back. And you said that people were deliberately keeping this from you, Curt, and you agree with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the term misdirection is not correct. People were lied to. The city and state cheated on the test to make it appear that the water was safe, and then insisted that it was when they knew for a fact that it was not safe. So it was more than misdirection. People were lied to.
And in
And harmed.
If you look at
some
that,
of those lies came from the governor's staff not wanting to get involved or to be smeared by this. So some of the emails that Governor Snyder, and that's Rick Snyder, who's been the governor of Michigan, and this was his second or third State of the State address, he has apologized, but what he's apologized for is getting caught, not apologized for what has happened. Because quite frankly, when they finally did understand that there was a problem, the email traffic was, well, they're going to try to politicize this, and this is going to get us in trouble, so maybe we need to do something. Which means, number one, they knew there was a problem, and number two, they knew it would hurt them.
Let me just play a little bit of that apology.
Group in Flint.
Yes, let me tell you a little bit of that Governor Snyder's apology, because Rochelle actually says, no, he's just saying sorry for people finding out. Have a listen to this.
To you, the people of Flint, I say tonight, as I have before, I am sorry and I will fix it. Government failed you, federal, state, and local leaders, by breaking the trust you placed in us. I'm sorry most of all that I let you down. You deserve better. You deserve accountability. You deserve to know that the buck stops here with me.
You know, our community heard that as well, that State of the State address. And this is Dr. Christely, who wrote in, Flint is my hometown, and I'm appalled that a few emails and apologies from the governor could be considered transparent. But there's also someone in our community, Nayyirah, that I want to play you a video comment from. This is Yana, and she talks about it not just being on the hands of government officials, it's a little bit wider than that. So have a listen to what she said.
The Flint water crisis has exposed not only hazardous levels of lead in people's tap water, but also a hazardous culture of disrespect, disregard, and even disdain for the public by the very agencies that we pay to protect us. We witnessed the same during Washington, D.C.'s lead and water crisis 10 years ago. The solution is not only technical, it's also cultural. It requires reconnecting our scientists, engineers, and civil servants to the communities that they get paid to serve, to the knowledge, experiences, aspirations, and resources of these communities, and to the devastating harm that innocent people can suffer when the experts they trust with their lives betray them.
So Nayyirah, she says there's a disconnect between these agencies and their communities.
Well, I would agree with that, but also I would like to say that the agencies, like when we tried to get them involved, they disrespected us. They discredited us. And even when we went to connect and was
How did
able
they
to
do
get
that?
Mark Atwood.
How do they do that? How do you feel they did that to you?
Well, in February we had meetings to really engage the community in finding out what was going on with their water, because we also pay one of the highest water bills in the nation. And then we had the emergency manager, Darnell Early, hiring 2 special investigators to prosecute people who were turning water on their own, like stealing water.
Yeah.
And so we were really like trying to find the truth. And as we're trying to find the truth, we weren't covered. We were disrespected when we went to our local government, and when we tried to engage other individuals. We got Aaron Brockovich's water expert Bob Boycott by basically blasting her on social media. Like, that wasn't something that was really even wanted.
Right.
And as we're trying to get the truth, we have our mayor and the MDEQ, the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, who is the monitoring agency for water in the state of Michigan. They're sending out communications and emails that everything is okay. Just wait until they build a pipeline so we can have a different water source. And as we were trying to seek the truth, like, it was resistance met at all levels of government all along the way.
So Nayyirah, I'm curious about this. Have a look here at my laptop. So this is what this water from the Flint did to the pipes, and it corroded the pipes. And they could have actually just put in an anti-corrosive agent, and then this wouldn't have happened anyway. So you have corroded pipes, and let me just show you a sink from Megan's house here. This is Megan's sink with the water flowing in there. So I'm just wondering, did they just cancel all of your water bills? Did they refund you? Did you stop paying water? Because they're messing you up, right? Like, why would you pay for this?
No, we're still getting a water bill, like, to this day. And if you don't pay, you get a shut-off notice.
So your bill didn't change?
No, it actually went up.
No. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
because they decided that they needed to help fund like all these improvements that they were going to be making. So at my community neighborhood watch meeting, and I live in the 9th Ward in Flint, which is on the south side, they were like, they're going to increase the water rates probably just so that they can afford to start paying these people back. And so you're going to take more money from us to pay for us for the water we've been paying 8 times more than everybody else in the country has, that we can't even do anything with?
That gets back to that level of disrespect and the idea that they know better than the people in Flint. And it is so disheartening and quite frankly insulting to watch how state officials treated people. When the governor says he didn't know about this and his people let him down, there's a city councilman who tried to file suit against the state because of this problem, and the emergency manager that the governor appointed said he didn't have the authority and could not do it. So even though local officials were trying to do things, there were other things that could be done. There were months that the Environmental Protection Agency, which is a federal agency, was having a debate with the Michigan agency, as Nayyirah said, the Department of Environmental Quality, about the water, whether it was right and whether it was. And the EPA, which is supposed to enforce the laws and the standards for the water, rather than say, okay, you're now in violation, we're going to come and do something, they did nothing except argue for months while people were still drinking or getting dirty water.
So, Curt, there are questions online now about what's the latest. This is from Nafizi, who says, has anyone been charged for the obscene negligence in the Flint water crisis? He got one answer of sorts on Twitter. This is Heather, and she says people are outraged. They want answers and justice, but it's still unclear when infrastructure repairs are expected, and Governor Snyder refuses to resign. So what is the latest?
Well, there are 2 investigations underway. One by the U.S. Department of Justice and one by the Michigan Attorney General's office. The governor himself has appointed a task force to look into the issue. So there are investigations underway. We're continuing our investigation into this, which has really been much more effective than any government investigation so far. There's another point that I think is important that be brought out, and we're talking about the disrespect being shown to the people of Flint here. First of all, a rich city would not have been taken over by the government in the first place. A rich city would not have had democracy taken away from the people living there in the first place. And the level of disrespect shown to Flint would not have been shown to other cities that weren't majority African American and other cities that didn't have a poverty rate of 40%. This is racism, and this is classism, and this is the imposition of austerity. This is what austerity looks like when it comes to America. Kids get poisoned. And we cannot ignore the fact that the crucial role that racism and classism have here.
Megan,
and I can tell you that, quite frankly, when you're talking about things like racism and classism, you know just how bad it is when you have a governor to hear that children are being harmed and still does not act for months and months. We're talking about children, and this could be any city in the world, who will suffer, and they will suffer. This is not some estimate, and this is not something that people think. This is not speculation. If you have ingested lead and it is in your blood, and it's in your blood at actionable levels, and for some of these children it's 10 times that, it will cause developmental and behavioral problems. So while the governor and some of his party, his political party, and they're three, the GOP and the Democrats and the people who don't want either one of them, and when you are patting yourself on the back because you have gotten $28 million to try and do some of the things that you should have done a year ago, the bill, that's a down payment on the bill that's going to come due for what these children will need.
Do you know what I'm getting from all of our guests today is that community organization is the success story behind this awful story of populations being put at risk. I want to show you something here. This is from one of our guests' Twitter feeds, and this is a Flint Lives Matter rally here. Where do we go from here, Megan? What's the quality of the water like right now? How do we fix it?
I couldn't tell you what the quality of the water is like right now because I won't turn my taps on. Everything in my house is coming out of bottled water, except for flushing the toilet. And even then we try to put the lid down so it doesn't spray out into the rest of the house.
How do we fix this?
People need to...
How do we get so that you can use the water in your house, the water that you pay for, the water bill that you still pay for? How do we fix it? What do you need?
Don't forget about us. They didn't start doing anything until people outside of Flint started paying attention. The instant that people let this go or think that it's been resolved before it truly has, they're just going to try to shove it all back under the rug again. We have to keep people, like everybody that's donated money or time, even the time it took to retweet a link about the water or that's sent water is amazing. It's so... There's so much gratitude here for the donations that we've gotten and the attention that we've gotten for this. But, you know, I mean, we need so much. We need our infrastructure replaced. We need a safe source for our water. Sure. We need to not have our rights as American citizens taken away from us just because our city happens to be in debt. Just because we had some money issues doesn't mean we deserve to be poisoned.
Rochelle, you're a very experienced reporter. Just in a word, because we're always at the end of the show here. Where do you think this story might go next? What's your gut telling you?
People around the world watch what happened in Detroit and how Detroit came back from something horrible. This is an international incident, and we don't want this to be a Chernobyl, which means they're going to have to replace that water. They're going to have to provide for these children to have what they need for the next 10 to 20 years, and they're going to have to check the infrastructure of every city, and I encourage anybody in any city in the world to do the same.
Rochelle Riley, Nayyirah Shariff, Megan Groeneveld and Curt Guyette, they're all coming to our post show at stream.aljazeera.com. Before we get there, Malika.
One last thought from Flint Water Project on Twitter. Hand delivering water to a city of 100,000 plus people is an enormous task, even for the state government, so volunteers are critical still.
Thank you very much for watching the stream. Hopefully see you online at stream.aljazeera.com. Take care. Hi, I'm Femi OK. Welcome back to the Streams Online Post Show. We've been talking about the water poisoning crisis in the city of Flint, Michigan, and why it took so long for authorities to address it. Oh my goodness, online this has come up a lot. This topic has come up a lot. Where do you want to take us, Malika?
Well, one of the points that two of our guests raised, Curt brought it up first, but the point about why this happened in Flint, and it might be the result of some inequities there that are longstanding. This is a comment we received from Andrew Highsmith, who talked about some of those inequalities. And Rochelle, I'll direct this one to you.
And it has occurred in a city that has already suffered the cruelest of fates. A city that has been ravaged by the closure of manufacturing plants, generations of racially biased housing and urban development policies, and decades of government austerity. The Flint that Governor Rick Snyder vowed to reform in 2011 was already one of the most racially segregated, economically polarized, and politically fragmented regions in the United States.
So, Rochelle, it was just a few days ago, actually, that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said at the Democratic debates that this wouldn't have happened in a rich white suburb of Detroit. And so that seems to be a point that a lot of people are picking up on. It's because it's Flint.
This wouldn't have happened in any white city anywhere in Michigan. I think that the two things that are saddest is that it is easy to try and dismiss people if they are another color or if they don't contribute a lot of money to campaigns. So what you had in this case was a government that decided if we ignore this, it will go away. And it didn't go away, and now they're trying to play catch up.
Let me just play what the current mayor has been saying about this, and she pretty much says something very similar. This is Karen Weaver, and she was speaking at the US Conference of Mayors back in January 20.
You know, it's a minority community, it's a poor community, and our voices were not heard. And that's part of this problem. Like I said, this has been going on for almost 2 years, and the citizens, the community spoke out about this shortly after the switch was made to the Flint River water, and nothing was done.
Curt, I'm hearing officials saying all the right things now, now that everybody knows about this. Are you convinced that action is being taken?
Well, action is, some action is being taken, but there's also a desperate attempt to avoid responsibility here. The governor has done anything but come clean on his role in, if any, in deciding to use this river in the first place, or what research was done before the river was used to make sure it was safe. He's absolutely, the email release is totally inadequate response in terms of his claims for transparency. And the investigations need to continue. I think there needs to be more. I think the legislature should hold hearings and put people under oath and have them answer questions in public exactly about what their role is in terms of deciding to use the river, what they knew about the problem, and make it so if they do continue to lie, they face perjury charges. You know, this needs to be done. It's a Republican legislature, and people say, well, it's not going to happen because it's they control the legislature. But there's a moral responsibility to act here, and they need to hold these hearings, and they need to put people under oath in public answering questions about what happened here.
See, Nayyirah, you're in the spotlight right now, and everybody's looking at Flint, and we're following the story, and we're appalled by the story. Something will come up in the next couple of weeks or even days, and then people will move on. When the spotlight's moved on, what needs to be done?
Well, we need several things. We need to replace our infrastructure. Like Curt said, we need to have people face the consequences because we still haven't received that. In Flint, to this day, like, we have an action response team, but the response team and the information that they're sending out, it still does not say do not drink the water. We have elderly people who are out in our community boiling water before drinking it. You can't boil out lead. So we need that. And then also there has been several organizations that are accepting donations for water and money. So the United Way of Genesee County is accepting donations for water and filters for the short term. The Community Foundation of Greater Flint, they have a website called flintkids.org. And that is for people to donate for a lot of the long-term care. So Dr. Monahan Atisha, who's a pediatrician at Hurley and is the physician that actually did the research and discovered the elevated blood lead levels in children since the switch. So she's going to be heading up that effort. And as the one person, we still need water in the streets. We have a lot of water coming, but a lot of that water is still sitting in warehouses. So we still need to get that out to the community, along with a lot of the education efforts and telling people to not drink the water, a lot of the nutritional things that needs to occur for people to guard themselves against lead absorption.
Nayyirah, so you're not drinking your water. Are you showering in it and bathing in it?
I have not took a bath in about 2 years, unless I go out of town.
Wow.
So I have a
manage?
shower filter system.
Yeah.
I have a shower filter system, and I shower using that.
And it filters out the lead?
Yes. It was more expensive, but yes.
And I think that's horrible. That's the most horrific part of this, that the governor would stand and give a state of the state and not answer the two most important questions. Is the water safe now, and when will it be? It's horrible. It's such a disrespect and disregard for Flint residents and for all the people around the world who care about Flint. So we're not going to go away. I do want to say this to Megan and Nayyirah. We're not going to stop, and the spotlight isn't going to go anywhere. We're going to be following this for a very long time. You are not alone.
Thank you. I think that we need to send a message that you can't poison a community and get away with it.
There you have it.
So I want to end with this tweet from Flint Water Project again, who's contributed to this conversation a bit. They say the community has been the most active all along, but it's the government involvement that has been critical as of late, and this is a huge challenge that the city residents still must face.
Nayyirah and Rochelle and Megan and Curt, thank you so much for sharing this story with our global audience. We really appreciate your time this afternoon. Take care, everybody, and good luck.